most interesting thing in all of the Olympic team wrestling trials was that J'Den Cox didn't get to compete, or that J'Den Cox didn't compete. Let's back up. If you know the story, I'm going to condescend to you. If you don't know the story, stay with me because you're going to like this. J'Den Cox, who has medaled in every World and Olympic Games that he's ever entered since 2016, 2 bronzes, 2 golds, coming off of a second gold, reigning world champion, does not get to enter the tournament. What happened? Well, he was late to weigh-ins. So weigh-ins, real hard start, hard stop, were 7:30 in the morning to 8 a.m., 30-minute window. Cox arrived at 8 a.m. believing they started at 8 a.m. and went to 8:30. Now, Cox got this information from his coach. And I only say that not to blame the coach. There was a mistake made. But I do want to say it at least in defense of Cox, because what would any of us done, right? Put your golden rule, put yourself in someone else's shoe. What time would weigh-ins be? They're whatever time your coach said they are. That's when they are. What time does the game begin? Whenever your coach says the game begins. That's the correct answer. Or at least that's the answer we would all operate under. Cox got there late. So when Cox goes and gets on the scale, he's 0.4 over. Now, he's on the scale at 8:03 in the morning. But to put that in perspective for you, he believed he's going to have another 27 minutes. He's already 3 minutes late to the scale. So he goes and runs off the 4/10. He comes back, and he did it very quickly. Took him like 8 minutes to do that. He comes back. He is now 11 minutes late in entirety to the scale, but he's on weight. When they decided not to put Cox in the tournament, and guys, by the way, not only is it likely I'm missing a detail, it's more than likely because this story is still coming out. So if we revisit it down there, you go, Chael, that's not how you told it the first time. Yeah, I'm sure. But I am telling it very accurately for the information that we have now. My question at that time, when they decided they weren't going to let Cox wrestle, okay? And don't forget what time of day means in the world of sport. It does not mean what your iPhone says. I don't care if you know how to read the sun. Time of day is whatever the referee says it is. The referee being the official, whatever time he says it is the legal and official time. Relevant to know. That's a very relevant detail to know because they let Cox get on the scale. They let him get on the scale, saw that he made weight, and then said that he's disqualified because he's late. My question was simply, why did the official let him on the scale? Imagine a teacher in school. You're late. She accepts. She lets you do the test. She lets you complete the test. She accepts you turning in the paper and then says, well, you're late. No grade. I'm just sharing with you that is a relevant fact that could be something that changes over time. But from the information we have now, they allowed Cox to get on the scale. Why would the scale even be there? Why would the official even be there? I legitimately have that question. To compare it to Ironman would be a fine example, okay? You can't be late for Ironman because there's nowhere late to be. There is no finish line. The moment that time elapses, they get up, they tear the tables down, and they leave. You will cross the finish line to nobody's there. So I just personally am a little hung up on that. Why was the official still there? Why was the scale there? And why did they allow him to get on it if he's already in violation? I don't have the answers to that, but I would really push that point if I was Cox. Now, this gets complicated because Cox did rely on information he got from somebody else, but that somebody else is an employee of USA Wrestling. So USA Wrestling went against Cox, but an employee of them gave Cox this information, and the employee admits that he gave him that information, admits he was wrong. Is that enough? No, most likely no. No, most likely no. I mean, again, I can go back to the school example. If you got information from a principal, that's going to hold up with the school board. But if you got it from a teacher and it was the wrong information, that's not going to hold up. It does matter where on the line that person or that employee representing the organization sits. It does matter. I don't know that coach is high enough. That's going to be tested. Here's the bad news, okay? There's only 2 ways this can go. Cox is appealing. Cox is fighting it. The event is over. So what's he appealing and what's he fighting for? I mean, do you see the problem? He's trying to get on this year's Olympic team. Just by example, say a resolution comes in December, the game's in August. Do you see the problem? How do you retroactively get in something that no longer exists? It's gone. So we have two ways this can go. The way it's already gone. Cox is out. This is done. Nothing to see here. Or no, Cox should have been allowed to participate. So let's say they come to that conclusion. Cox should be able to participate. That is wrong. He was there. He had this information. He relied on it. We, by extension, gave him this information because it was one of our employees. We should have accepted it. Let's just say that happens. Wrestling fans have falsely concluded that that means Cox will get a special wrestle off with Snyder. That's not where Cox was fighting to be. If they had accepted Cox's registration, Cox would have gone into the semifinals. So if we're to put everything back and do our best to walk this forward, that would mean that Cox wrestles off with whoever drew into the semifinals. And if he wins, draws whoever he would have had in the finals. And if he wins, he gets into Snyder. That simply can't happen. It simply can't happen. You cannot remake that. I mean, by example, say Cox goes to the semifinals and loses. Does this guy get to go again and then go again against Snyder? No, of course not. They already did that and that was already played out. But you see where now we're getting silly. It just can't be done. And then if you had just the strangest thing in the world, which would have no legal precedence whatsoever, but we see that in court all the time. Let's say somebody says, no, Cox, you should have been in. Go wrestle Snyder 2 out of 3. Snyder could push back and refuse to step to the mat, file his own lawsuit. Say, I followed the process. I already did 2 out of 3 with who won the tournament. It wasn't him. As a matter of fact, he didn't go to the tournament. As a matter of fact, in the best case scenario, he would have been in the semifinals of the tournament. He's got 2 other matches and litigation before I put a singlet on. So it just starts to get it's very sad. This is a very, very sad story. J'Den Cox did an interview, by the way, my God, he was muscles popping out of his shirt. I mean, this guy was fit. This was the match. Very easy to talk about who you think is the best wrestler in the world. Very hard to talk about who you think is the best defensive wrestler in the world. It's Cox. It's just J'Den Cox. The best defense on earth is J'Den Cox. I only share this with you. It's a heartbreaking story. And then to see J'Den, to see how great everything right. And even was to the scale. On weight and on time for what he thought it was to be and had reasonable belief to think that. I share that with you because I do not see how this is possibly going to go his way, because don't forget, and the point that I just made, but I want to remake it, if we are to unwind the tape as best that we can, it is not Cox versus Snyder. It would be Cox into the semifinals. Into the finals. Into the 2 of 3. You just can't unwind it that far. Even if a court came and ruled that Cox should be given that opportunity, Snyder could very easily file his own suit and say, I am not going to take to the mat. And I believe that Snyder would prevail. Snyder already took to the mat. He already took that risk. He already did that work, and he already got that reward. So it gets very complicated, and I'm not sure where you could go. I think that from a legal perspective, and when I say I think, I will tell you, I may not be a lawyer, but I'm the smartest guy in the room, and I will simply tell you this. From a tactical standpoint, it should be a monetary lawsuit versus who you think wronged you. When that monetary lawsuit starts to look it's going to go your direction, the ones that you wronged will come to the table and say, what do we need to make this stop? At which point he's going to say a 2 out of 3 with Kyle, at which point they'll try to call Kyle and get Kyle to agree, and Kyle's crazy ass just might because he likes hard matches. That's a stretch. This whole thing's a stretch. It's ongoing. It's very sad, and I just bring this to you. It's very sad. There was a misunderstanding, and if there's anything that comes out of these situations, there's a lesson, and the lesson that we must observe and learn is to check and then double check, to research and then verify things that are within your control. Cox did this the way all of you would have done it, the way I would have done it, the way everybody there did it. Nobody there researched and then verified. Nobody checked and double checked. Everybody asked their coach and relied on that information. It was a mistake. It's just an accident. That's it. There's no villain in this story. But there is a victim in the story, and the victim is Cox. What can we do? In a best case, what can we make sure we learn from this? Don't let it happen again.